Well, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our session today, talking about cultural transformation. Just a brief agenda of what we're going to talk about today and showcase for you. We'll do some opening remarks, some introductions really fast. And then our main purpose today is to really start, educating and informing around some solutions and some actions that can be taken towards really making the improvements and transitioning culture within the workforce. So the Questback team that we have with you today that you'll be hearing from here a little bit later. So just quickly, Questback. So we are an enterprise platform for experience management that helps organizations capture critical insights from their employees, customers, and market. Using experience data and cutting-edge artificial intelligence technology, we can analyze, measure, integrate, and create actionable outcomes that organizations can use to transform themselves through innovation to remain competitive, profitable, and successful. As you can see here, we are a global business with offices throughout the globe, and we've had many bits of success in the experience management area. So the reason that we want to meet with you all today, and we know you've been having many discussions around this, 2020 has been a challenging year for a lot of businesses and for a lot of people. But when it comes to talent development and culture within the workforce, as you all have probably experienced and witnessed, this year has really unearthed a lot of the discrepancies that have been taking place. And what we've found at Questback is that many corporations have made a lot of public statements and commitments towards improvements in the diversity and inclusion space, but they don't really have the tools or the resources to take those actionable steps and really do something about it, let alone really understand what the culture looks like within their workforce. And so what we've been bringing to the marketplace as a technology is a solution called Culture Quest, which my counterparts Andrew Cox and Amruta Karnik are going to walk you through. And this will be a great example of a solution that you can bring back to your organizations and to your customers on how to really start building the right foundation towards cultural transformation. So Andrew,
thanks, Megan.
Yeah.
The first problem that we face is while we have organizations with clear disparities between what the pay differentials between men and women and people of color, we see a dearth of senior leadership of color within organizations across the Fortune 500. And as Megan said, despite the bold assertions that organizations are looking to address these issues, progress is really very slow. And the reason, or one of the main reasons that progress is very slow, is because organizations don't have the information that they need to understand where they need to take action, the actions that they need to take, and critically, the impact of the actions that they've taken. There is a lot of academic research out there, but as far as organizational data, which is pertinent to individual employers, there is very little out there. And one of the reasons that, can you go back? Sorry, Megan, just 1 second. Is that organizations are very good at looking at the structural differences between, for example, the number of men and women at senior levels, Black and minority ethnic representation in board level and whatever. But actually what they don't have much of an understanding of is the organizational culture. And the organizational culture in terms of a culture of inclusion, which values difference, is what creates those disparities. So while we can bring talent into organizations at a more senior level, we can target set, for example, at senior levels. That's the very definition of treating the symptoms rather than the cause. The issue with culture, though, is culture operates at a hidden unconscious level. If we think of unconscious bias within organizations, at an individual level, scale that up to an organizational level, and that's what we need to uncover, and that's what we need to develop a conscious understanding of, and then we can address. And that is exactly what Culture Quest is all about. So why are we falling short? Well, as I said, we look at the structural things, we're good at those. What we're less good at is looking at the cultural elements. And one of the reasons for that is because we don't use clear, simple measures, models of culture and how they link to behavior. And when we do that, then we can start understanding the behaviors and assumptions that drive them, and we can start building a more inclusive culture. When we look to do assessments in this area, what we do is we go back to old habits and we use questions that we typically use for employee engagement surveys. They don't work. They don't give you the actionable insight that we need. What also happens is we don't integrate different data sources into a meaningful whole. So what Culture Quest Parity does is it looks at employee attitudes and beliefs. It looks at the experience of talent management processes. It looks at the behavioral choices that people make as they're going through these talent management processes. It looks at organizational culture and maps all of those against your diversity demographics, all in one holistic assessment. It also incorporates tools to allow you to act effectively, to collaborate within your organizations, identify best practice, to come up with ideas, and crucially, to involve everybody across the organization in the process of cultural transformation. One of the other problems that we see very clearly is that people assume that cultural change must be driven solely from the top of an organization. That's true to an extent, but unless you involve everybody in the process of cultural transformation, it is unlikely to take root in the way that it should. And this is all wrapped up in secure, scalable technology so that we can very easily run assessments across hundreds or hundreds of thousands of employees across the most complex of organizations. Let me take over the screen.
Yep.
What I'm going to show you now.
Any questions so far, guys, as we pull up the demo for you? Don't feel shy. We like to keep things very conversational. So any questions, feedback, comments, or thoughts, we welcome it. Nope. Okay. You can continue, Andrew.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Let me share my screen now. So what I'm going to show you here is some real data from a real organization who have run the Culture Quest assessment. And this is the reporting section. I'm going to pass over to my colleague Amruta in a second, who will show you the collaboration and ideation and action planning part. But essentially what we have here is a very sophisticated interactive online reporting system, which we can show organizations the results of the assessment in all of its glory. And the assessment only takes around 15 minutes. It's completed online by respondents via a secure link. And what this allows organizations to do is really interrogate the data in a way that's meaningful. So here we have questions, and here we have the results to those questions in terms of the percentage of people who've agreed with the statement. So here, I feel confident if promoted to a leadership position, I'd be readily accepted within the senior community. 41% agree with this. We can compare this against benchmarks. We can compare this historical data in previous assessments. We can look at one part of an organization against the other. And what we can also do is we can apply filters. So we can look at the results by demographics, be they personal demographics such as age, gender, be they diversity demographics such as sexual orientation, be they things around ethnicity or transgender status, or organizational demographics like where people work within the organization. So here, for example, if we look at respondents of Afro-Caribbean heritage, we find that 41% goes down to 28%. So, clearly there's an issue with feeling that you would be accepted within to the senior community from Afro-Caribbean respondents. What we can also do is we can look at demographics. So for example, here we have the questions, and here we have a length of service demographic, and we can see that satisfaction with these issues declines in a linear fashion as we go up through length of service. We can also look at issues, for example, like disability. And here we can see that disabled employees, or those who say they have a disability, are somewhat less favorable in these issues than the rest. What we can also do is we can look at people's experiences of the talent management processes. In this case, it's the process of applying for a more senior job or more senior post within the organization. Have you applied? Was your application successful? Did you find the process fair? And did you receive best practice sort of feedback on your application, and why it was not successful if it wasn't? Here we ask reasons for not applying. So for example, the most common reason: I was not made aware of suitable positions open to me. And again, we can look at this by different demographics. So here, the percentage of people who've been at their pay band for 5 years or more. And what we see is people who've been at the pay band for a long time without progressing, they tend not to put themselves for positions. And when they do, they tend not to be successful. So here we have something of a self-fulfilling prophecy around people who've been at the pay band for a length of time. And when we dig deeper, we find that they're less likely to be sponsored by senior members of staff. They're less likely to receive information on posts open to them, but they still feel that they are able to perform at those higher levels. So looking at these combinations of demographics in this way, we can really come to develop some really targeted interventions. And finally, before I pass over to Amruta, what we can do is we can map these attitudinal and cultural elements against the demographic elements. So here, for example, if we look at current pay, we can look at, for example, how that breaks down by gender. And here we see, as we go up through the pay bands, we find a lower and lower proportion of women in the pay bands. So this is essentially the basis for a gender pay gap. And here, if we want to examine other kinds of pay gaps, we can look, for example, at disabilities. And these are the respondents who said they had a disability. And again, we find that we have a general decline as we go up through the pay bands in the percentage of people with disabilities. So do we have a disability pay gap? Absolutely, it seems that we do. And we can look at intersectionality in these elements as well. So female respondents with disabilities, or against ethnic groups across different groups within the organization. So hopefully you'll see that you can get a very good granular understanding of the situation across the organization, bringing together all of these data sources to build a real solid picture about where you need to take action. At that point, I'll invite some questions.
Yeah, so it looks like we have 2 questions, Andrew, before we go over to Amruta. One question is, how is organizational trust measured or assessed?
Trust is an interesting one. For example, people who have trust in their leadership will be much more likely to do the things which we would categorize as examples of inclusive behaviors. So they'll be much more likely to contribute. They'll be more likely to challenge. They'll be more likely to take risks in terms of putting new ideas forward and trying those out, and taking a risk that maybe they won't work out 100%. When people feel a sense of belonging and a sense of trust, they behave in certain ways. When they don't, they kind of keep their heads down. They kind of stop rocking the boat. They don't challenge so much. They don't speak truth to power, and they don't take a chance to innovate. When they find themselves in a situation where they feel trusted and a sense of belonging, they do all of those things and they take accountability for making a difference. And it's those behaviors that we measure which actually categorize the culture as being inclusive or not.
Thank you so much, Andrew. So we'll let Amruta switch over screens. And then while she does that, Andrew, our other question is how customizable are the data, I think the data views from within the report?
The data views from in this report.
From the reporting that we provide with Culture Quest.
We do have a degree of flexibility in the reporting that we provide, but this is a tool that we've developed specifically for the purposes of pulling out those key messages. So we can provide you with a more standardized product, or we can customize that as much as you wish. One of the issues that we do face is the more customization that we do, the less comparability we have to things like benchmarking, which really helps to put the results into context. So there's a balance there. But are they customizable? Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Okay, and Amruta.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Michael. Right, so hello, everybody. What we are going to go through now quickly is we are going to go through the workflow for the methodology that Andrew walked us through earlier. So the workflow is based on what we call it is our feedback loop. So we always begin with an initial assessment. So an initial assessment is sent to the entire organization, no matter how large or small it is. We recommend that the initial assessment is sent to the entire organization, so we get a baseline of how the culture of the organization looks like today before we start taking any steps towards the D&I or working towards building the culture for the organization. As individuals in the organization start taking the assessment, we do have a real-time reporting built into the workflow. This reporting is just nothing but Andrew walked us through earlier. We do have that as a real-time dynamic dashboard, which is available from within this portal. Once we have the reporting in, what we need to do is we need to take some action or make some changes based on the results, because the worst thing that an organization can do is just send out assessments, get back results, analyze the results, and not do anything about it. So our action planning module is built in such a way so that we can have initial individual teams also take corrective actions in order to fix the culture or change the culture for the organization. So if you look at it as a whole, while collecting the data, we take a top-down approach for the initial assessment, and while fixing the culture, working through the issues, the challenges that are uncovered during the reporting, what we do is we take a bottom-up approach while keeping into consideration the processes and the procedures which are laid down by the governing organization. Now let's go through the workflow. It usually starts with an initial baseline survey. So here we recommend adding a message from the sponsor so the employees know that, hey, this is something that the organization takes very seriously and we have executive sponsorship. These are the categories that Andrew walked us through earlier: inclusion and belonging, leadership, talent management practice, fair treatment, values, and behaviors. And we have questions that map on to each category, and that is what helps us uncover the issues related to each of these categories. Once we start getting the results in, we do have a dynamic real-time dashboard. The results start populating in the dashboard as employees start taking these assessments. We see that Andrew did walk us through this earlier, so I'm not going to go through all of those, but the data that's there, that's visible over here, is based on who you are and what access level you have. So let's say if you were an HR manager, D&I expert, you would see the data for the entire organization. But however, if you were maybe a team leader, a manager, then you would see filtered results just for your team or for the unit that you're responsible for. We have a couple of different ways in which we can present reporting. We do understand that dashboards, they are dynamic, but something that may or may not be for the whole organization or even for C-suite individuals. And in that case, what we have is we also have real-time reports, PowerPoint reports, template-based PowerPoint reports, and those templates are customized. So we will be able to pull out what you guys would be interested in. And we can generate the reports for the entire organization, or we can choose units for which we would like to generate these reports. These reports are made available to the portal of all of the employees, and these can also be emailed to the employees. So this is just a little condensed version of the dynamic dashboard that we saw earlier. So we have done the initial assessment, we have done the reporting, analyze the results. Now what we want to do is we want to get into action planning. So we have a couple of different ways in which we can address that as well. So D&I experts and managers can sit together and formulate an action plan. An action can be created. This can be created by a manager themselves or by an HR manager or D&I expert assigned to the manager, start showing up in the queue inbox of the manager, and then they can start working on it. They can go ahead and share it and have other people work on it as well. Once that's done, they can go ahead and evaluate it because we want to make sure that it has a big impact. We want to check if we took these corrective actions. Did they have, what kind of impact did they have? Did they have no impact, big impact? So that's something that can be measured in the tool as well. Now you'll see over here that these actions, they are tagged, and what these tags are to what we are going to look at here in a little bit is what we call as guides. Guides are self-help. It's a self-help module for managers, and we'll be looking at it here momentarily. So what this also facilitates is, let's say you took some corrective actions, the team took corrective actions, or the whole organization, took corrective actions on a team level, and then let's say in 2021 we did that. Now it's 2025 and somebody is working on a similar assessment and taking actions, and they want to see what was done back then for inclusive team meetings. So, you guys can come here and search for, let's say, inclusive team meetings and all the actions, the history, the whole log that was there while those actions were taken will be available to anybody who has the right level of access. Another item that we present is, we call it as the discussion board. What we have is action planning and discussion boards. These are used by large dispersed organizations. So these allow individuals to collaborate and work together and find creative solutions for their D&I issues. We understand that this is a new topic. This is not the typical engagement issues that most of the organizations have, and they have resources which are built in. So this will also facilitate building of a community that can be available and can be used for years to come. So we are also facilitating through this the building of a knowledge base that can be used by the organization. So you can go ahead and create a discussion boards or discussion threads. It's not necessary that we create discussions which are related just to the results of the initial assessment, but this can be any initiative, any D&I initiative that's going on. One can come in and one can create a discussion thread. Managers, individuals, unit managers who are working towards solving those issues can collaborate, saying, hey, these are the actions I took and these are the responses I got. What are you doing to fixing so-and-so issues? We can also add external resources. People can comment and collaborate and work towards finding solutions. Next, what we present is we have what we call as guides. So these guides are nothing but self-help modules for the managers of the teams by the teams. What these are is these are systematic, and these are targeted, and they build on top of one another, and we shall see how. So the way we recommend using this is, let's say you have taken your initial baseline assessment, you have done your analysis, and you have done your action planning, you have the discussions going on. Now there has to be something, the ongoing dialogue to keep that open in the organization is what we recommend the use of guides. Now the very first thing that has to be done in an organization is inclusion. So where do you start inclusion on a team level? It's having inclusive team meetings. The teams, they can be virtual, they can be meeting in person, but having those inclusive team meetings is the key. Now, what we provide over here with these guides is we have some information based on what is an inclusive team meeting, and these are some, let's say, self-help things for the managers. What should we do before the team meeting? What should we do during the team meeting? And then what we also present is we have some questions that the manager is going to send to his or her team. Click next, and then you have the option to invite everybody from the team or just a subset of individuals, whoever the targeted group is, and you send out that guide. Basically what that is that's just another assessment that targets inclusive team meeting specifically. We do have a set of 10 guides which targets items, and it is in that order that we do recommend when an organization is working towards building or making their culture better, more inclusive. We also have monitoring offered to this to make sure that the managers are actually sending those out, what kind of responses they're getting, and which are the ones which are getting used the most. So after the whole assessment follow-up and the guides, let's say the managers in the organization have sent out all of 10 guides, what we recommend is coming back and doing the follow-up of the baseline assessment again, because then that will help them understand, hey, this is where we were in the beginning, this is where we are now. What we also have is a D&I index, and that D&I index is a number that will help the organization understand, hey, this is what this is where our organization stands in terms of D&I. And as we keep making changes, keep taking actions, keep sending out the guides assessments, our number is improving. So that is something that is also provided in and is built into the workflow. I know we just have 3 minutes left. I'll hand it back to Megan and open it up for questions.
Thank you. So while we open it up for questions, I want to give Frank the chance to, here we go, to give some closing remarks and speak to why this is so important to Questback.
Yeah, I think this is, thank you for the introduction, Megan. I think what we have been seeing here in America in particular, and now being a European living in America for a few years, it is very obvious to me, and it's a little bit, the diversity and inclusion is less developed in America, in corporate America, than what I've used to see. And I am actually convinced, after having worked here for a few years and having run business in America for 20 years, that if you are going to fix and amend diversity inclusion in all aspects, in person ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender, etc., it has to happen within corporate America. I think, and it needs to change one company at a time. That's a little bit the vision we have. You might laugh a little bit about it and say that we are naive, but I think the world needs companies like us that is willing to take it on and do it company by company, time at a time, together with partners, and really reaching out to fix this. This is a systemic issue that I think is really important to solve. And I take it a little bit personally because I'm just a little bit shocked to see how embedded it is into the corporate cultures. So I have decided that I'm going to pursue this until the end of my life, at least. This is a mission for me, and I want to continue and do the journey to make sure that we can make a difference. So I think I just wanted for you to understand that this is a movement for us. It is more than business. It's something. I think it's the most powerful thing in business when they can do something morally good and you can make a buck or two out of it. Then I think that combination speaks very well to corporate America, and that's what we are up against here. So, but it's a fight. Everybody in the organization that really wants to open up this tin can, we need to be prepared for a fight, because change is not easy. Change doesn't come without a fight. And I think this is a topic worthwhile fighting for.
Thank you so much, Frank. So as we close out, are there any other questions or feedback? We'd love to hear your insights from what we were able to share with you today. Feel free to unmute. Does anyone see this as a solution that would be very well integrated into some of the other programs that you're doing with some of your customers and organizations? Okay, quiet bunch, that's okay. Well, if you do want to learn more about Culture Quest, and if you would like to see a more in-depth demo and get a better, deeper understanding of the solution and all of its capabilities, you are welcomed and invited to go to our website, questback.com, where you are greeted by a nice pop-up banner that will take you directly to our diversity and inclusion page, where you can request for a demo or further information, and our team will reach out and schedule some time to meet with you. So we hope that you guys walked away learning something today, and I hope that this was able to give you some hope and belief that, you know, a lot of the initiatives and the efforts that you guys are doing right now with your clients and with your companies can be fulfilled, and that there is a solution out there that is here to help support you and get you the data-driven results that you're aiming for every step of the way. So we appreciate your time, and thank you for participating. And I think that's it for us. So have a great afternoon, guys, and enjoy the rest of the conference.